So I went on a bit of a journey on Instagram looking around for more obscure comics, at least in the United States, because this ended up being one of the most famous comics in France and like several other European countries. But I found it because on Instagram I just fell into this artist named Matthieu Bonhomme, who's French, and he took over this very famous comic strip or comic book series now called Lucky Luke, which I had only barely heard of because I knew it was a Terrence Hill a movie in the 90s. And I was a big Terrence Hill fan, and I happened to see, it's like, oh, hey, this guy draws Lucky Luke, who I vaguely knew because I was a big Terrence Hill fan. And it, I don't think I'm exaggerating, but this guy might be the best cartoonist I've seen since like Jeff Smith did Bone. Um, like I fell in love with his black and white stuff real fast because this is not in the comics or any comics near as I can tell. It's just him like messing with the figure and getting it right and practicing Lucky Luke and the his horse Jolly. It's amazing. It's just him doing poses over and over again. It's fantastic. Um, so once I found that out, I immediately bought the first book, or his first book. It's The Man Who Shot Lucky Luke. I bought it from Comixology, and I think it only cost me like $7.50. So that was one of the best decisions I think I ever made because look how much he can do with so little. Reactions, expressions, water dripping off of him. You know it's the main character because of how unique he looks. That's a result of the original creators, mostly who Bever, who was a Belgian cartoonist. But it's so good, and also one of the things I like much better about French comics is they're not afraid to put actual panels in and tell a story instead of the deconstructed nonsense that I see so much of. It's like, oh, you should only have 3 panels a page or 4, maybe. Can't top 6. I'm like, nonsense. This is 9. It looks great. It's fantastic. It's got 2 establishing shots on it. Zoomed in eyes. The color is perfect, and all of the figure work is incredible. Now I just kind of want to go through some panels that I thought were pretty amazing from this book and his subsequent one, which is called Wanted. Um, First of all, 12 panels on this page. Look at how many figures he puts into the scene. And then, as any good Western would have, bar fight. Separating out the characters with blue on top of the yellow. I also like how he's not afraid to mess with color in unique ways. Because you have Lucky Luke here who stands out against the background because he's the same color as the brick. Also the expressions. Do you want to hear cartoonists complain about something? It's going to be hats. So many of them can't draw or hate to draw hats. Look at this. They're all in hats, every single one of them. And not to mention you have to have Luke and his friendly character who ends up playing an important part in the story. They have unique hats. The bad guys have unique hats. And then you have everyone else in their hats. And look at this. Look at that figure. Look at the weight that he puts on the shoulder. And it's all just a very fluid line from one elbow to the other. That's all so directional, so well done. The mane on Jolly the horse, straight line, goes straight into the back, carries across. I love what he does with guns here. The motion of the draw. and then twirling it to put it back in. Now, I don't do it as well, but it's something I do in my comics and stuff like that. I use smoke as a directional tool. Um, this is pretty advanced because the picks all lead the eye in one direction, and the shovels, then you have the rope, then you have the smoke, and another shovel where it all converges in on Luke. He's the only one who's not really overlapping with anybody. He's in front of everyone. He's not behind anyone. But it's in black and white, but it's basically all silhouetted. Except for he doesn't want to be. Where Bonhomme is just ignoring the rules of light whenever he doesn't need to. You know that there is a directional source, because you can see it on the top of Luke's thigh, and it casts a shadow on the back of his leg, but the hat's all white. Underside of the brim, all white. Anything to make it read better. That's all that matters. Okay, I've moved on to the next book called Wanted, or Lucky Luke Wanted. And I'm mainly pointing out this panel because it comes back later. The speck in front of a dust cloud, as you see Luke riding up, and it moves in and in and in. And it's going to be used to even greater effect later. But I really do like, again, doesn't waste any lines. And it's very clear storytelling. Great silhouette. Great coloring in this particular way of doing it. Again, well done with the storytelling. I also like how they showed this. Has to take the gun out of the holster with the opposite hand, drops it, catches it, and fires. And of course, he's the best shot ever, so he actually hits the guy from however far away that is. He's so small. And here we go with a hero moment where Lucky Luke has saved some damsels in distress. First of all, amazing horse drawing right there in front of a cart. Oh man, so good. But silhouetted horse up on hind legs as he rears back, comes in, reaches down, helps the ladies out from underneath their cover. I like this page because it shows the desolation of the area with him being one of the only warm elements of the page, showing the task at hand, how dangerous it's going to be. But my favorite panel in this book is probably on the next page, where look how good this is when they all fire at the same time. Look how perfect the overlapping is, how perfect the gunfire is. And also, they all kind of fire differently. I mean, she's fan firing on the end, and it's just more interesting. Then you get an upshot of Luke, another gun twirl. So good. He can draw animals perfectly too, along with, with very few lines. And he keeps it in this yellow tone the entire time that they're getting baked in this desert. Even as it gets to sunset, you can still tell it's hot. And then look how deep he makes these shadows as the sun sets. And on into night, where it finally gets cool and they're only warmed by the firelight. Good coloring. I fell in love with this black and white, but smart colorist too. I like this just because it's fun. So this is also from a Terrence Hill movie. Can't remember which one now. Might be Boot Hill, where he gets tied to the wagon wheel. But this is based on Jack Palance from Shane. And then here's my favorite use of that wide shot up here with the specks in front of the dust cloud. Look how heavy everyone looks. All these things here, they actually line up in that little itty bitty image. They're all in the right spots. Until finally, they collapse near water. I want to point this out. There's a 3-page sequence that has a ton of panels, but it's also extremely sparse in dialogue and interesting because it shows major characters. Like this is one of the main bad guys at the end, and he's sneaking around. This guy's sneaking around. It shows what he's doing in this one. So he's got 4 tiers, 4 rows. this is his arc in that. Little guy, he's now hiding behind stairs. The Native American villain, he is going up to a roof, and this big brawler guy, he breaks off a piece of banister and is gonna wallop Luke with it. Rounds the corner, runs into Jolly, who, that's not where you want to be whenever there's a horse, you know that. As Luke is sneaking up on a guy and he throws a snake at him, so he falls off the roof. Jolly kicks the big guy out of an alleyway and poof, they both land at the exact same time in the middle of the road unconscious. And being as it is Western, with a loner character, the loner has to ride off without the love of this particular story, because there's usually a new one for every book. And then it ends on a gorgeous note, same way the last issue did, where Luke rides away singing on his horse. And that's all. I just wanted to bring it up. He's this guy, Matthieu Bonhomme, amazing, mind-blowing good. And that's it.